Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So off we go again in the capital, 2 years after the last one, but with a hard-fought, some say divisive mayoral campaign in the middle. What will London do now with Brexit into the mix in this easily the most Remain place in England? We have with us the man coordinating the LibDem's campaign in the capital, Tom Brake, up to now MP for Carshalton and Wallington, and the man doing likewise for Labour, Andy Slaughter, who's currently MP for Hammersmith. The Conservatives have provided us this week with Paul Scully, who was elected in 2015 for Sutton and Cheam. Welcome to you all. And just to kick off briefly, really, realistic expectations. Let's start off with you, Paul, about what the Conservatives will do in the capital.
What they'll do in London, I would hope they will be winning well in southwest London, where it's going to be a tight fight against the Liberal Democrats. Tom, I'm sure, will be on his toes. Neither of us, I know, having fought in Sutton for a long time, are going to be taking anything for granted, but we'll certainly give him a run for his money. And we need to be seeing if we can make gains like in Ilford North and places like that as well.
Which we're coming on to a little bit later. Andy Slaughter, honest and self-critical and a realistic assessment.
I think Theresa May has misjudged calling this election on both on the issues and on the timing of it. I think she's a nasty shock. If she expects people just to do what she's telling them, then the British public, I don't think, will like that.
And your realistic expectations about your own party?
In London, I think we will do it extremely well. I think partly, as you say, because it's a Remain city and she's going for the hardest of hard Brexits, and partly because I think that the overall Tory message is a very backward-looking, very monochrome type of view, doesn't go down well at all.
Tom Brake, an opening thought, what, one step at a time?
Well, I think Paul Scully has correctly identified that South West London will be a battleground between the Tories and the Lib Dems. We've also heard that UKIP are swinging behind Kate Hoey in Vauxhall, so that makes an interesting prospect perhaps for the Democrats as well. Yeah. And perhaps the seat that Simon Hughes used to hold, which was a very strong Remain voting seat in the EU referendum, where people may feel, but people feel let down by the Labour Party on the position they took.
And we'll talk about him a little bit later, because I think he's launching officially today with a visit by the leader a little bit later on. Let's talk about that at the moment.
Neil Coyle, the MP for that seat, is just as positive for Remain. So let's not start
positive for Remain. We might discuss a little bit later how positive. We might discuss about how positive he is about his own leader a little bit later, but let's move on. So we've heard some mention of target seats and party expectations, but let's get more detail on the current picture and where the most crucial battles could be fought with Raphael Sheridan.
2015, the last general election. Britain is in the EU, Boris Johnson is Mayor of London, David Cameron wins a Tory majority with the Lib Dems suffering electoral meltdown. In London, Labour bucked the national trend and performed well. 2017, and it's all changed. Britain's on its way out of the EU. Sadiq Khan is the capital's Labour mayor. Islington North MP Jeremy Corbyn is Labour's leader, and the Lib Dems seem resurgent in the polls. Take a look at southwest London. The Lib Dems launched their campaign here in Richmond Park, where they managed a 22% swing in a by-election victory last year.
So the Bermondsey and Hornsey and Wood Green also are hugely important, significant seats for us. You know, we're bound to look at places like Vauxhall and think with a heavily pro-Leave Labour MP and a very liberal constituency, every chance that we could do well in places like that.
Their strong stance against Brexit is giving them a lot of ammunition against the Tories in the pro-EU constituencies they lost last time around. The Tories say they aren't worried.
I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm looking forward to this election. I think it's because we're full on talking to people, and I think that's what I remember 2015 when the polls stopped at 10 o'clock.
The Labour Party has its strongholds in inner London, so their key battlegrounds are in outer London, where Jeremy Corbyn launched his campaign.
We want a Labour MP that's going to stand up for the people of Croydon. The Labour Council in Croydon is building council housing. I want a Labour government that builds council housing.
Labour holds seats across outer London, but with wafer-thin majorities. Even the tiniest of swings could mean the Tories once again dominate the suburbs.
Outer London, lots of marginal constituencies where I think Labour MPs which in constituencies which in the past would not have been seen as absolutely marginal, will be worrying. There was a local council by-election on Thursday in Harrow which showed a 9% swing from Labour to the Conservatives.
For many years, people have described London as a Labour city. Come June the 9th, will all of that have changed?
Where do we start? Let's start where you were just before we went into that film. So you say in someone like Southwark that Neil Call is a Remainer, so that will somehow, I'm implying that will neutralise the impact of Simon Hughes. Surely people will look, if this is going to be a Brexit election, they will want the purest sense of rejection of it, and they will go for the Liberal Democrats, not Labour in that sense.
Well, people have a variety of views. Some people would like us to stay in the EU. I would like us to stay in the EU, or give the British people the chance of a second referendum to do that. Other people would say that, yes, we want we respect the result of the referendum, but we want to replicate those terms because those are good trading terms for the UK. So to say it's a black and white position, as Thomas said, I think is a bit ridiculous. I was simply correcting a mistake, which is that Neil Coyle, with me and many other Labour MPs, voted not to trigger Article 50. So I hope we're not going to see in this election campaign the misrepresentation.
But how much, whether it is, but how much those individuals might have done, people will just see that for what it was. No, that you members had to say that and do that. You knew an election becoming sometime.
I think that we've moved on in politics a lot, and I think we'll see some very different results in different parts of the country and different constituencies in this election than we did before. So it's very important, when I put out my literature, or Neil does or anybody else does, that they are very clear about what their line is. But it's absolutely right. Keir Starmer, our Brexit spokesman, has said, quoting David Davis, the Brexit cabinet minister, that we want to see the exact replication of the trading conditions. I would like to go further. I would like to see a second referendum or a vote in Parliament, because Theresa May is not giving the British people what they want. She's not giving them that choice.
Tom Brake, South West London, like the southwest of the country, everybody knows now. They'll know immediately that these are your targets. You look at someone like Tanya Mathias, the Conservative candidate there. You're saying, I'm not quite sure why I'm going to enjoy this, but do you accept that there'll be a limited Liberal Democrat advance, can only be a limited advance because you're so far behind in so many seats? But even in someone like yours, and of course in Paul's seat, narrowly leave areas. You're not, you know, it's a myth to think that Liberal Democrats were doing well just in Remain areas.
Well, if you look at the results in council by-elections around the country, we've actually been doing very well in places that voted very strongly to leave, for instance, places like Sunderland and Rotherham. So I think it's hard to predict. Clearly we have areas of strength, and South West London and the South West indeed are areas of strength. But we're not just going to make this election about Brexit. This is also going to be about critical issues such as the future of the NHS, the future of our local hospitals.
Yeah, some of those issues will come on to. Well, some of those issues will come on to. But how will you'll struggle, won't you? You'll struggle in your area where people definitely want to leave, and are now looking for signals that there is a strong commitment to make that happen, to appreciate the result up and down the country.
Well, but what I also think people want is they want to know that if Theresa May is re-elected as Prime Minister, there is a very large, very vocal body of people, members of Parliament, Liberal Democrat members of Parliament, who are willing to fight the Prime Minister to ensure that the hard Brexit that she wants to pursue, which I think will cause maximum damage to British jobs and British families, is not the one that she will end up delivering. And you can only secure that if there is a very large body of MPs who are willing to fight her in the way that I'm afraid the official Labour Party, Andy may have done it, but the official Labour Party was supine and frankly useless.
Very briefly, can I bring Paul in?
I can't let that go, because the reason the Liberals want to fight this on Brexit is because they were complicit in the destruction of our NHS and our education system when they were in coalition with the Tories.
Fine,
you can't airbrush 5 years popping up a right-wing Tory
let's bring Paul in. You see Tanya Mathias there, you know, fighting Twickenham, been an MP for just 2 years. Do you feel, and to make clear, you know, you voted Leave as well, you're very much a Brexiteer. Do you feel at all sorry for people like Tanya Mathias, some of your Remain colleagues, who, do you agree, it looks like your party may be sacrificing with this early election?
I agree with Tom that this isn't just going to be about Brexit. Brexit's clearly going to be the backdrop, though, that runs right the way through.
So let's deal about the impact of that backdrop. Let's deal with that first. We'll deal with the other issues.
What Tanya is going to be able to do, what I'm going to be able to do, and other Conservatives around, is compare the parties and actually look for what people want for the future. Because in the same way the 52% that voted to leave looked at different things, so did the 48%. And you have the Labour Party that can't agree amongst them about their position. You've got the Liberal Democrats that are actually becoming becoming increasingly shrill, and as you say, actually can have a limited amount of effect from the sidelines.
You know those people that did vote, though, they gave the Conservatives, your party, such success. You were a beneficiary of this in 2015 when you won. You took all those seats from the Liberal Democrats, forced them virtually off the map in London. A lot of these people in there always supported Remain, and a lot of those candidates were, the Conservatives who got in, were pro-Remain. These voters have found themselves with something they really don't want, and you have...
But Tim, this isn't about re-rehearsing last year's referendum.
You say that you don't want it to be, but it will be. Do you understand if it will be in those seats?
If some people want to do that, but that was a by-election, and that's a protest.
But do you understand it will be? Well, I'll start off by talking to you about Twickenham and, say, Kingston. Do you accept that voters may well make it a very hard time for those?
There may be. Look, voters have got their choice. They've got to debate about the issues that they want to debate about. But I think what we've got to do, and we've got to explain to people, that there is no point in actually just re-rehearsing last year's arguments. But far better to actually concentrate on the individual industry sectors, the individual communities, different styles of business, so we can get the best bespoke deal. Just because Theresa May has a wide negotiating position doesn't mean that anything's set in stone. But it's a negotiation that we want everybody to get involved in the debate.
Do you think the timing's good, though, even from your point of view, coming so soon? Do you really think the case has been made that that there is a clear plan for how we're going to exit without all the harm that might be done when we don't get the access to the single market?
Well, I think this is why this is going to be an interesting conversation over the next 7 weeks, but the debate will continue because the negotiation is going to take the full 2 years. So make no mistake about this. This isn't going to be something that's just going to be June the 9th, we're suddenly going to have a deal that's with the rest of Europe, hard Brexit, soft Brexit, or whatever type of Brexit you want to call it. This is going to be something that's going to involve politicians, and I already was going to have, before this was called, a set of public meetings to talk to people about what they expected out of Brexit. Now the referendum, that last year's debate, has settled down, and we're focusing on the detail.
Clear choice, Theresa May or Jeremy Corbyn leading this process, getting that best deal now?
I'm absolutely convinced that Theresa May is ruining this country. This hard Brexit path she's following. She wants to reject our biggest trading partners and go off around the world talking to dictators and hoping that she can patch together something.
Brilliant. And so because that's repeating a point.
And what a Labour government under Jeremy Corbyn will do is it will ensure that we replicate as quickly and as surely as possible the trading relationships which give us the prosperity we get through trading with 27
adjudicate which of those parties would be better able to deliver Brexit, something you're not going to be able to overturn.
Well, I don't think either of them are very well placed to. That's why we want to see as many Liberal Democrats elected in Parliament as possible, to ensure that the centre of gravity, which is very much on the hard Brexit end of Brexit, that is brought back to the centre where most people, whether they voted for Remain or indeed for Leave, actually thought the United Kingdom was going to be. In other words, within the single market, for instance. That is what people who voted in the EU referendum last year thought the Prime Minister was going to do.
We're not going to leave the whole Brexit theme altogether, but, it might just get parked or underlie what we do now. We're just going to try and drill down a little bit deeper. How are the key issues as well as Brexit? Labour's recent divisions and leadership. Yes, it's policies too, and worries over public services. How is all that going to be viewed in potentially one of the tightest races, Ilford North? Andrew Cran's been taking a look.
Ilford North, East London, Zone 4. To make this report, we trawled through pages of data about the constituency and found that, apart from being quite a multicultural area, this bit of London is strikingly normal.
So, whether you're looking at how old people are, how much education they got, whether they're healthy, how many cars they own, if they own their own homes or not, Ilford North is uncannily near the national average on almost every single measure. But politically, this is a knife-edge constituency. Labour won by just 589 seats in the last election. And with the polls suggesting big swings to the Conservatives this time round, the people of Ilford North, if it really is like the rest of the country, could well wake up on the 9th of June with a Conservative Member of Parliament.
So welcome to Ilford North, and we'll get you shown around in one of our taxis.
But the man who has that job for now is Labour's Wes Streeting. He took us on a tour of the neighbourhood, which according to BBC Research voted almost exactly like the rest of the country in the EU referendum, with 52% opting to leave.
I'd be interested about Brexit and whether this is, because this is meant to be a Brexit general election. But my sense from talking, and I knock on doors every week and have done for the last 2 years, and I have to prompt conversations on Brexit more time than not on the doorstep.
Next stop, Wes's constituency office. where we took a call from the man almost certain to be his Conservative rival in the election.
Hello, how are you?
Former MP Lee Scott.
I'm not too bad. I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot of you in the next 7 weeks.
In the last 2 years, Wes made a name for himself as a leading critic of the Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn, even going as far as saying the party can't win a general election with him in charge.
All right, Lee. See you soon. Take care, mate. Bye. Bye. The battle is joined via your mobile phone. A landslide Tory government will deliver the hardest of hard Brexits and will deliver classic Tory policies that hit people, particularly the poorest and on lower middle incomes, in their pockets. They always serve the people at the top. They don't care that every school in my constituency is facing budget cuts. They don't care my local A&E is about to be closed. They don't care about the disabled people in my constituency who've had their mobility vehicles taken away. Classic Tory agenda.
And the Labour leaflets being handed out on the street that we found have little mention of the party leader, but quite a bit about Wes himself and local issues, particularly the fate of the A&E at the local King George's Hospital. At the local Conservative Association, we showed them to the man at the other end of the phone call a minute ago, Lee Scott.
Clearly, every election that I've ever stood in, as a Member of Parliament, as a councillor, every single time I hear from the Labour Party King George's is closing, there's going to be cuts there. Later on, I'll take you down to the A&E at King George's, it's still there. I'll take you down to the hospital, which is still functioning. So I don't believe scaremongering is going to help anyone. There are no plans that there would not be, at the very least, a 24-hour urgent treatment centre. I campaigned to keep King George's A&E open and would do so again.
So, if he's trying to make the local NHS a non-issue, what would Lee like this election to be about?
There is a straight choice. Do we want a coalition chaos under Jeremy Corbyn, or do we want stability under Theresa May? That is the choice the people have. It is as simple as that. That's what this election's about.
But in the end, it's voters and not politicians who decide how elections are won and lost.
Jeremy Corbyn, we're not the best speaker, but he's got a good heart, a good soul.
I've never voted Conservative in my life, to be honest with you, but I am going to this time.
And what's made the difference?
I think Theresa May has made the difference.
I don't think I like the present Prime Minister. I'm not very happy with her. She's a hypocrite.
Normally Labour, but I think Theresa May is probably the best thing that's happened for years.
The Greens and Liberal Democrats are also standing in Ilford North. UKIP have told us they're looking for a candidate. But with just 46 days to go, in this part of London, everything is still to play for.
Let's get on to the issue, or one of the issues for health in a moment. But can I just ask you very quickly about Wes Streeting? Obviously, one of the candidates there, we talked about Neil Coyle in Southwark as well, but two of them have been very, very critical of the leadership. Do they deserve to win when they've been so critical of the leader in the past?
Wes Streeting absolutely deserves to win. He's a fantastic MP, a fantastic campaigning
Not Neil Coyle,
MP.
and perhaps he doesn't deserve to win.
And I think I've already made the case.
You have, right?
Neil.
Okay.
I mean,
but even though they haven't, but they are. When they've been so critical over the last few months and years, I mean. And if they are not rallying fully behind the leadership now, do they deserve to win under?
I think you know the answer to those questions, because you know these people as well, and you know that they are absolutely committed to their constituencies and their constituents. And you heard Wes making the points. That could have been me speaking about schools cuts in my constituency, about threats to my local hospital, and it's a bit of a cheek for the Tory candidate there to say that. The only reason these A&E closures have been delayed, and they've been delayed, as in the case of Charing Cross in my constituency, not withdrawn, is because there's such a crisis in the health service, so much demand, so many people waiting so long in trolleys and in A&E, that they have not been able to close them this year. But make no mistake, they intend to do that.
Well, you know that people, well, yeah, you predict my next question, scaremongering, it hasn't happened, has it?
No, it hasn't happened because the NHS is in crisis, because the Tories haven't funded it, and demand is going up. But so any sensible government, and this is my real beef with Theresa May's government, any sensible government would look again, wouldn't be ideological about it, or say, look, that's not going to work, our plan for closing A&Es. In fact, they are saying they will go ahead with them, and every single school in my constituency will lose up to 25% of its budget. This is the government we're dealing with.
Let's talk about specific hospitals, St Helier, between you two. You both campaigned, you both say you want to keep it open, but Paul Scully, Andrew Slaughter here saying it won't stay open.
The thing is with St Helier is we've heard quarter of a century of people saying that they want to save St Helier, it's going to close, with no sort of viewpoint of how to actually take this off the table. What I've been keen to do is actually work with the chief exec of the hospital locally to see what we can do to maybe build a new hospital facility in Sutton. That is actually going to provide all those services and not have to move.
So you think there is a future there, doesn't have to move?
But you have to have
you convinced me that it's going to happen? It's going to happen.
Solution to be
Let's trust the Tories, Tom Bray.
What Paul is arguing is that he is arguing for, in effect, the closure of St Helier Hospital.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
With a replacement at the Sutton Hospital site. The only problem with that is there isn't actually the money, which amounts to £500 or £600 million that would be needed to build a hospital on the Sutton site. So the risk of what he is advocating is that actually we lose St Helier Hospital and we don't gain Sutton
You're wrong on
Hospital.
both counts. You're wrong on both counts. It doesn't cost that amount, and I'm not talking about...
I know from 25 years of campaigning enough about the future of the hospital.
It will cost around £75 million.
Can I just be absolutely clear, though, Paul Scobie, the accusation that... Do you think there should be any A&E closures? Should there be any reforms?
Well, one of the last review was actually consultant-led, and one of the big things is because everyone's been talking about St Helier. Actually, if you were a junior doctor just about to qualify, why would you want to go to St Helier when everyone's saying it's going to close down? You want to go to St George's. You want to go to the places where the action is according to the political waves, and so it's a self-perpetuating cycle, really.
Can I just say that people would want to go, doctors would want to go to St Helier Hospital because it's one of the highest performing in London,
it is,
and achieves the best results within
and
the
it's
A&E.
a shame that it's a shame that too many politicians.
Can I just, in the time we've got left, and it's not very long, can I just pick up on some of the themes that we've seen earlier on in the main part of the programme? Your leader, Jeremy Corbyn, not apparently committing yet. We're not clear about, say, Trident, something like that, which will come up on the doorstep. Do you want to see a commitment to keep Trident in the manifesto?
There is a commitment
to be in the manifesto. We were told today that it wasn't there yet.
And I'm sure it will be.
But it hasn't been decided. You definitely want that, though.
Well, no, it will be. I'm sure that is Labour Party policy, and it will be. But let me just say, that you mentioned the doorstep, I spent 8 hours there this weekend. The health service and hospital closures came up, school cuts came up, the housing crisis and homelessness up by 130% came up. I'm afraid there's other issues.
Very neat swerve. And then can I just check
with you? Would you like to see? Do you agree that the lock now on taxation, we should be prepared to look at national insurance, income tax, VAT, to see if those rises is necessary?
I think the Chancellor can talk about flexibility, and I think that's important. I did speak out against to the Treasury about the national insurance changes at the last budget, because I've run businesses for 25 years, and I don't want to be sending the wrong signal to people that are actually taking risks and creating jobs as a result. But in terms of flexibility for the Chancellor, I think we'll see what happens in the manifesto.
Can I just make the point in the 2 days or 3 days we've been on this campaign, a number of people have already said to me about the Liberal Democrats, even if they were coming back in South West or wherever, tuition fees. They still can't let that go. People who've children going through. What are you going to do about that?
Well, I've been campaigning a lot, as you'd expect, in the last few days.
And you're going to say no one's bringing it up?
No one has mentioned tuition fees.
I'm bringing up all the wrong issues today.
Then please allow me to remind them.
How many have raised bins?
The Prime Minister has chosen to make this general election about Brexit. That is what we're going to fight it on, but we're also going to fight it on issues like the future of the NHS.
Run out of time. Andrew.